Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. I am your host, Kelly Meehan, a citizen of the universe and a passage keeper and mentor for our new Earth children. I believe we are entering into a new psychic structure of our reality, and it is meant to embody deeper trust and ways into solid self-love and fearless integrity. Our new world energy of spirit babies needs us to consciously create within conception, trust pregnancy, and have freedom to birth and parent from innate wisdom. This is Spirit Baby Radio. As always, welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. This is episode 203, January 3rd, 2024. This episode I'm calling Freedom Heart Gathering 2025, Community Healing for the Future and Our Children. And I have special guests. I'm really excited, Lori and Vanessa. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
And I want to just share a little bit about this episode. What kind of new level of consciousness are you open to welcome to our future and our children? What is the future of healing for our own health and wellness? What ways can we create and bring forth a new level of healing in 2025? I know that sounds like a big mission. So I want to introduce my I feel like what I wanted to do and why this is happening for Spirit Baby Radio. It's a new year. I've hit over 200 episodes, and Vanessa and Lori don't know this, so thank you. Yeah. They don't know this, but I thought about their energies and what I wanted to bring in 2025 in a space of the heart warrior, in the space of just graciousness and love. And that's how I see these two beings. I see them in their own truest form and their advocacy and their uncensorship to be that warrior, to bring the information in. And Vanessa and Lori, I think you're gonna be really curious about these questions. Some I'm like, okay, everybody has their own connection, right, to their health. And it's like, what do I do about this? Or what do I do about that? Or is this good? Is this bad? Or, and yeah, there's so much to that. And I know that we are all here, right, in different experiences, different heart missions, really. But yet we're all coming together as this beautiful love community, right? And I want to share a little bit about a bios on you two and just hear from you, hear from you as well. I'm going to start here with you, Lori. Lori, I'm not going to say your last name properly. Can you say it?
That's okay. There's a reason why I go by Lori K. It's Krajewski or Krajewski, but it
Thank
looks
you.
like Krajewski. It's just easier that way.
I like that. Lori Kay is a passionate naturopathic practitioner, thought leader, and transformational holistic health guide in the realms of personal and professional alignment, with a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of life. Lori empowers individuals to heal from within and live purpose-driven lives. Thank you
Thank you for
for,
having me.
yeah. And Vanessa, Dr. Vanessa, for the past 25 years, Dr. Vanessa has been in private practice helping people navigate chronic illness, autoimmunity. Her roots begin with a degree in chiropractic, and she went on from there to get her master's in traditional Chinese medicine, to become a certified clinical nutritionist, a certified autoimmune protocol coach, and a certified functional medicine clinician. And as I was saying, ladies, I put out the call to see, it's a big question, right? 2025 health, healing, holistic frequencies, earth. And I want to just get a little bit more before I go into the questions, a little bit of energy from Vanessa, Lori, whoever wants to go, just kind of maybe share just a moment, maybe is a big question. Like, what is the vision of health, you know, coming? Like, what are we doing? What are you seeing? It's such a big question, right?
It is a big question. Yeah.
I can tell you, I think just for me and what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot more simplicity. Just getting it's gotten really complicated, hasn't it? It's messy. There's so much noise. People are so confused. there's 100,000 different supplements on the market and 1,000 ways to biohack. And it's just like, I'm really like anchoring in on just getting a lot more simple.
I actually had this conversation last night with another health provider who said, how do you decide? And similar to your answer, I said, as cliche as it sounds, you have to pick a lane. And the lane that I choose really is just foundational basics and getting back to our core, getting back to what is really true, peeling back the layers perhaps from all of the programming and indoctrination and the biohacking summits and all of the things, and just really tuning in with what we know, not so much what we read or master classes we might take. What do we really know to be true? And using that inner compass that we all have, that we keep forgetting we have, to help us navigate the complexities.
I love that.
Yeah, those are just really awesome answers. And there is a lot of stuff happening out there, right? And I know that we think about the future, right? We think about what's happening and especially if we have children and what's their life going to be like and how can we continue to heal on different levels to wherever we are, right? I mean, that's the biggest piece. And I know for 2025 energy for me, I'm really feeling like this groundedness into who we are and the approaches that we do take. I do feel, many of us can really call on a more innovative, progressive way to heal that maybe like it's not even really in mainstream at all, right? It's like not even there. But what does that mean anyways? Mainstream. It's like, so what? So what if they don't
Yeah.
have it? It doesn't. And I feel like that's the new Earth human, right? It's like we're able to kind of learn and create as we go. But there's a really good question in, and I think this will be really great. And I'd love to hear what your both kind of experience or opinion is on this. Is such a big question. And I'm going to read it exactly as it came in. Is there a good source for health related information? Something we can trust? I know, let's all laugh, right? I don't necessarily trust anything from mainstream media sources. So where can I find information that I can actually believe in? What I want to know what you ladies have to say about that one.
I'm going to jump right in and say that is the $1 million question, because in a world that is completely inundated with information, I don't remember how old you are, Kelly, and Vanessa, it's a pleasure to meet you, but I don't know how old you are either. I come from a generation where we didn't have internet. We didn't have Google to give us all of the answers. We had encyclopedias and libraries. So it wasn't, this massive amount of information literally everywhere that conflicts with everything that you read. It's a very saturated, mixed up, confusing road to navigate. And I really feel for people, because as hard as it was for me not having any information, now it's the flip side. There's so much information, nobody knows what's real and what's true and what's right. And I don't know how to answer that for anyone other than to find sources that you trust. And how do you do that? Trial and error, unfortunately. Reaching out to friends and asking them, who are some of the news sources that you trust? Who are some of the people that you follow for health information or wealth information or, global change information or anything like that? I think in such a separated world, it's become quite a challenge to find what really is true. But anything that lands in your lap really has to resonate with how you feel when you take in that information. Does it feel right? Does it feel true? Does it feel accurate? Because we know. We might not know the science behind something. We might not know the biochemical reaction of something, but we don't have to. That's what the scientists are for. but we do have to resonate with the information that's coming in. And if you don't, that can be a really clear indication that it's not for you.
You know what, Laura, you say something and it kind of like all of a sudden I got this old memory just came through that I came from the study of psychology. So, and sitting with, learning about psychoanalyst Freud and that. And I remember like in the changing of the science of psychology, there was times where we were really learning that the science isn't everything at all. Actually, it's like, how are the
Yeah.
people feeling?
Mm-hmm.
How are the people feeling? And it's just, it's fascinating when you said, I was like, oh yeah, because even in that space, even though there's this idea, right? And I like how you said that. It's like, let's just, save it for them, or we don't all have to be like, neuroscientists or physicists. It's like, we're coming back to our basic nature of who we are. And, I see people that are really bought in a space of their own energy, of really needing that conventional Western medicine. I don't even know what we call it anymore. And I don't want to say buy in, and I don't want to be like negative about it, but we do know there's a negative energetic space that can really kind of conform it. But I also know that some people feel like they really need it, and maybe their frequency does, right? Because that's where they're at. And yet we have this all other piece of, maybe even it's like new medicine, we can call it, right? German medicine, someone said,
Mm.
or frequency medicine, that there's so many different, yeah, ways into the space of healing. But Vanessa, what can you say about that?
Yeah, I love your answer, Lori. It was perfect. And just to expand on that, and I love this question because it's such an important question. And to sort of expand on what Lori's saying, I think our cells are wired for the truth. Like we cellularly know the truth when we hear the truth. We know the truth.
Mm.
And as difficult as it is to really answer that question, and I'll say there really is no one terrific answer to that question. I can tell you, I know how to not move towards sources that seem inappropriate or off, or anytime I hear like dogma, anytime I hear this is the way, anytime, right, or somebody who, I have all the answers, right? It's always the most refreshing thing for me, even as a healthcare practitioner, but it's like, I don't have all the answers. I have no idea. But I can help you find the answers. I can help you find somebody if I don't know, right? Because there's never just one way. That's what makes it so mystical, so magical, also a little bit convoluted. And I think a lot of times what happens in medicine and definitely in complementary and alternative circles is when people find that thing that's helped them, they become incredibly myopic and think that that's the thing that's going to help. It's like if you had Lyme disease and you recovered, well, everybody has Lyme. And if you had mold toxicity, then everybody's got mold. Everybody has mast cell activation syndrome. If that was the thing that you had, everybody's got an autoimmune disease. If you're the ones, and we become incredibly myopic in thinking that this is the thing that everybody's got gut problems, right. And so it's like I tend to stay completely away from dogma. I tend to really make sure that my nervous system and my cells are like, yeah, that's the truth. I hear that, and and what is my specific need, and then to reach out to my community. I mean, I think that's the best we got right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big question. Like that's what I knew. I was like, oh, this is big. And I do agree. Like, I've reached out to actually both of you ladies in my own crisis at times. And, what am I needing? And what is the connection? Is it physical, emotional, spiritual? Of course, it's all of those things. And I feel really thankful and fortunate because I do have a community that I'm opening to reach out to. And I would even say that question that came in. Yeah, where does your community look like? During the pandemic, we knew it was a big shit show. And I was like, where's the people that are in health freedom, right? So like, where are they? And they started coming. They started coming from literally around the world. I found out things and, it was kind of a secretive time. And then things, expanded through that. But I feel like your healing tribe is there, right? And we have to be willing to experiment with that too and see how we're calling that in. So let me see. Thank you, ladies. Let me see if there's another.
You know
Oh,
what? I just want
yeah,
to
go
throw
ahead.
one more thing into that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely
Look at
go.
the motivation behind what's being delivered. There are times when I connect with the doctors who are all on these speaking platforms and all of these speaking tours. And I don't want to throw every single doctor in one pile because there are several amazing providers, but I do find some of them have motivation that I don't align with. And the same can be true in the traditional medicines. There are a lot of holistic providers, kind of like Vanessa said, they're they're kind of I call it a one note. They have that myopic one track and that's it. And that's the only way. And their motivation isn't aligned with mine, I guess. I really do gravitate toward people who have it on their heart to serve others. And if they're money motivated or fame motivated, it kind of gives me the ick. My cells say ick.
Yes.
I just, keep scrolling. So I would throw that out there too is, does it give you the ick? Then keep scrolling. Does it really resonate with your heart? Dig a little deeper. See if it keeps resonating.
I love that. I feel like, yes, we are so in agreement with that. And so just a reflection of that question, just you start doing it little by little, baby steps and see what happens. Like I think what happens is people get frustrated and they get into fear and then they back away and then they're like in their same habitual pattern of like, see, there's nobody, I'm scared. But I know when we start leaving certain media kind of sources and energies that we then have a whole other perspective, right? This is the best way to say it. It's like a whole different view. And I think we're coming more into that space. So this next question, I'm laughing because I'm like, we have to laugh, right? We have to laugh at all this shit. It's like so serious sometimes, so deep. And this is a really big question too. I'm like, okay, but I did ask if there's questions, and if anybody has a question too about health, wellness, whatever, like let's see what the ladies here, Lori and Vanessa, can share. Um, so the next question is, how do you think AI will change the landscape of health and wellness? Do any of you can speak from that more deeper? I don't have a very deep perspective on that. I'm not gonna lie. Any thoughts?
Well, my original career was in medical transcription, and AI replaced me in 2012. So AI has been a part of the scene for far longer than people realize. And even at that time, I really wondered where it was headed because it was so sloppy and so many mistakes were being made. And it's trial and error, from what I understand, my limited understanding. It's trial and error that programs AI. I am not techie enough, not nearly techie enough to truly answer that, other than people already self-diagnose on Google. Um, I don't feel great about it. I'm pessimistically optimistic.
I know. I mean, we hear AI, and I think of Will Smith in that movie with the robots. Remember that movie?
Yep.
What is it? Yeah, I think of that, and then I go into like we know that, of course, like you said, like there's benefits, but then there is dark agendas. We're not going to pretend that they don't exist. And it's, this is where I feel like our warrior, the advocacy of like, oh, I'm not doing this. I was just listening to somebody that I follow that knows way more about this stuff than I do. And there was something with we people have talked about chips in the body, but there's something else coming out around body scans. And I don't know if it's more in this part of the world, but there's other things happening, and like it's kind of happened actually. And
Well, that was part of the
yeah,
agenda with
yeah,
the pokes in the arm, right?
yeah.
And the unfortunate part of those pokes is that whether you receive them or not, you've got technology now, um,
Nanotechnologies in your body, right?
inside
Yeah.
your body. Yeah. So, there was a movie many, many years ago. I think it was called Powder.
Oh
And
yeah.
there was something in that movie about when technology surpasses humanity, something, something. And I'm sorry, but I don't remember the quote, but that has always stuck with me. And I really believe that technology has surpassed humanity, and I don't see anything good coming of it. I don't want to be negative, Nelly. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Vanessa, what's your thoughts? Yeah.
Um, I'm also a little pessimistically optimistic. Um, I think for sure jobs will be replaced. I mean, I can already see that just in the mainstream medical community. Like there'll be certain scans or even low level radiology type stuff. Like we're not going to need radiologists a whole lot in the future to read basic x-rays. You know what I mean? I mean, more advanced probably nuclear scans for sure, but like just certain things that will definitely go by the wayside and will be replaced, I have no doubt. I also think that they'll there's always going to be a place for humanity. And there'll be will always be some things that just can't be replaced. Human touch, one-on-one connection. There'll just some things that AI is not going to be, already in just healthcare in general. I mean, when you look at just even in the last 10 years, what's happened, and definitely since COVID. I mean, on the one hand, it's incredible that we can have these connections, like sitting with you guys all today. It's just so incredible, and I'm so truly grateful and blessed to like be able to do this from wherever we are and anywhere in the world, right? It's just amazing. And to be able to have remote sessions with people and tune into a certain sort of frequency medicine, which is just, I think, going to expand exponentially, which is incredible. There's also something in the last decade that I've seen in terms of like the art of just the physical exam going out the window. And to be able to sit in a room with a human being and physically examine them, check their pulses, look at their tongue, look at in their eyes, listen with a stethoscope to, I mean, I see patients now where they're like, went to the cardiologist and nobody listened to their heart with a stethoscope because everything's been replaced with like, it's like there's certain nuance. There's certain that that's just, you can't, you know, I don't think that will be replaced on a certain on one scale. But for sure we're going to see AI like replace jobs and get rid of certain things and where it goes, I don't know. I really don't know. And the crazy thing is like our kids are inheriting this. So this is
Mm.
this is going to be for them to figure out. And I don't know what really, I don't know what they're walking into.
I agree with you that, Vanessa, because I'm thinking about we have, a child the same age, and I have another younger one, and I'm like, I actually, if I really deeply tune into the energy of a bit of the future, and I actually feel like they are going to figure it out better than we have.
For
And maybe
sure.
we can even hold that deep kind of connection that like, because they are different. They have, they don't know what payphones are. They don't know what like
Right.
not having a phone is. Like that's just not even in their reality, but there's a reason for that, right? And then we get to become those people that say, back in my day.
Yeah.
God.
Right.
I'm like, am I really saying that now? But I do. I feel a really good space in the puzzle piece of my heart that these children and growing up into teens and adults are going to be the warriors that are going to have to fight for things, actually. And I know some people will be like, no, we don't have to fight. There is a fight. I'm sorry. There's whatever that is and how we're showing up and speaking our truth and coming back to nature. Not like going back to caveman days. I think that's what people think nature is. Like, I'm not saying to go outside and live under a tree with branches and suffer. It's like, the integration of AI because it's here. And like Lori was sharing, even years ago, people didn't even realize it. But I not it was probably like a year ago. I went in Thousand Oaks, California. I think there were, Amazon stores very big over there. And they had the Amazon store. A really nice like gourmet market got shut down. And I was really sad. I was like, oh, I guess no one's shopping there. And so we came in and they have these like almost like corrals, like the pushing doors that you walk through. We walked up and the guy goes, oh, you want to come in? You got to scan your palm. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then we're looking at each other and he goes, "Oh, you have to have." It was the weirdest thing and it was like my realization was that he was trying to get us to sign up to do the palm scanning for the Prime, Amazon Prime. But the way he did it was really kind of devilish to me and kind of weird because I kind of hesitated. I'm like, "We're just shopping in the store. We're not scanning our hands to walk in the store." And he was like, "Oh, you didn't sign up." Then it would change, the story changed. But I thought, wow, that's where the manipulation begins. Because what if somebody's walking in and maybe they're stressed out, maybe they're like unfocused, or they're just like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll sign up for my hand thing. I want a food shop. And instead, it was like, I know with many of us, we may get a little like, oh, wait, what's happening? Like, let me talk about this. Like, what do you mean? Like, instead of just kind of going, it's like the questioning. And then, but that when that happened, I was really kind of like, oh, like I was angry. I wanted to like yell at the guy who was like,
Mm.
but I also realized it was like, oh, like there's a choice of frequency. Like you can be in one or the other, and we have to all kind of, evolve in the way we need to or we have to for ourselves. And to know that I'm allowed to say no. I'm not going to do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
No is a full sentence.
Oh, I like that. I never heard that before.
No is a full sentence.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
our no's are important, and maybe we should talk about that because I also had this run-in with a Western doctor, and my no wasn't good enough for him. And no, and no, and no. And I let my friends affirm that to me. It seemed like a pleasant interaction. And then I was offered other tests and things, and I was just like, no, I'm just here for the blood work. I'm good. No, but we got to do this, da, da, da. And I'm like, no, I'm okay with that. No, no, we really have to do it because you have a grade card in the state we are in, and they're gonna grade you. I was like, I swear, when I told my friends, like, is this stuff? Is it you're making this up? I'm like, no, and I'm sitting there in my mind going, this is really weird that he thinks that I'm gonna be vulnerable and fall for that. I was like, oh man, he's wasting his time, and I'm literally just laughing in my head, going, no, no. But I was like, how many times I had to say no was quite too much for what I'm here to hire you, doctor,
Yeah.
to help me. Like I'm paying you to help me. So I'm saying no if you're recommending things, which we have to do with people who have autoimmune, diagnosis of cancers and diseases, like maybe I need second opinions, or is this really true? Or what does this look like? It's like this is what I feel like we need to, and sometimes we may sit with the not knowing, right? And just be like, I think that's okay though. Like you may say no and not really know what your next healing assessment is or what you're doing. What can you say about that? Like when you both work with a lot of different people, they come with health concerns, but it's like, what were you saying? Like it's staying in your lane and just kind of seeing where it goes. Like, how would you approach that with somebody? Like if they're just like, I can't heal, I suck, and what do I do? Or maybe that's just me that says
No, no.
that.
Pretty much everybody that ends up finding their way to me is frustrated, confused, lonely, ostracized, and broke. So, I really have a heart for people who haven't found solutions in the allopathic medicine world, because I didn't either. Um, it took me several years to realize, and my previous job really helped me see, that allopathic medicine has nothing to do with eradicating disease. It's simply identifying a group of symptoms that match a diagnosis, that match several drugs that can match that diagnosis for a medical code, for billing, for insurance, for money. I'm not saying that, if I break my leg, I need a doctor. I might need an operation at some point. I don't know. And in those situations, I'm going to be very, very grateful that I have access to healthcare. However, because of my history with all of this mystery diagnosis and all of these strange things that have happened with my body, and every single test I've ever had is totally normal, I really feel for people that actually do finally get a diagnosis and they still don't get answers because there aren't any in the allopathic world. And then they go to the holistic world and the approach is really similar. The therapies address the symptoms and not the causes. So, if people can start to explore the possibility that they are in charge of their healthcare, not insurance companies and not doctors, that you're right, we hire them to assist us. We don't hand all of our power over to them. That we do have the right and the responsibility to advocate for ourselves and to have the confidence to say no to these people in white coats that we have been indoctrinated and programmed to believe have all of the answers. And, we're just at their mercy. It's just not true.
I do
We
see that
hire them
story.
to
Yeah.
help us, we hire them to help us navigate the complexities of what's going on with our bodies. But we know our bodies better than anybody. And if that person isn't helping us navigate very well, we have the right and the duty and the privilege to try to find somebody else who does. And if, I'm probably going to sound like a broken record after all of this is done. If it doesn't feel like it's in alignment, keep looking. You're under no obligation to anybody but yourself and your cells to find answers and solutions that work for you. If your doctor is trying to coerce you into something, run. Your car's not far away. Go hop in the car and just leave. Medical coercion is a real thing. I've seen it happen with my mom. Medical gaslighting is a real thing. I've experienced it my whole life. It's difficult. It can be challenging to find a really solid provider who's in it with you and not at you.
Wow. So much to take in. Yeah. So big. And I know, Vanessa, I know you probably have so much to share and continue on this conversation as you get a lot of people that come in looking for, whatever it is, they're healing, right? What can you say about that?
Yeah, I say I'm usually not like the first stop, right? So sort of similar to Lori, like by the time they've reached me, it's been a long time, lots of different people. And, I just, I'm just doing my best too, right? When I was going through my functional medicine training, this was like one of the best things that completely hit home for me personally was, if you're not looking at your chart notes and going back like a year or 2 or 3 years and you're a little bit embarrassed, you're doing something wrong, because we're always evolving, we're always learning, right? It's like you're not the same healthcare provider you were a year ago or 2 years ago. Like, so I do that sometimes. I'll go back and I'll look and I'll be like, oh my God, I recommended that 5 years ago or 10, right? It's like, because I'm growing and evolving and learning as well. Right. But the most important thing for all of us is we do have to remember whose ever care we're stepping into. It's like, I'm working for you. Like, I'm not the boss of you. And
Mm.
one of the things that sort of is revolving back into my consciousness now, when I was going through chiropractic school, and I started chiropractic school in 96. So, whoa, dudes, it's like 30 years ago this year. Oh
Wow.
my God. Anyway, one of the things that they was big in the chiropractic world was they always had this saying, the power that made the body heals the body. And
Mm.
30 years ago, at 25 when I entered, right, I just thought that's a bunch of like bullshit. Like, it sounds great, but come on. Now I'm like, that's like it. The power that made the body heals the body. I'm not
Mm.
healing the body. I'm, I'm the healer's helper.
Mm.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Right. And yeah, it's like, but and I will also add, if you can't navigate the system, right, on your own, make sure, God willing, you have somebody to advocate
Mm.
on your behalf. I mean, I was just at a pulmonologist appointment this morning with my mother, who's in the beginning stages of dementia.
Mm.
There's no way and I'm like the worst person to be at that. You know what I mean?
You're the best
The
person.
best or the worst, right? And
I
and
love
he
that.
was great. To his credit, he actually spent a good long time with her. This was not a 10-minute office visit, which I was just so like, wow, this is wonderful. But, no doubt about it, like, before we walked out of the office, there were, 3 or 4 vaccines he was recommending. And you know what I mean? She's clearly not up to date right. And it's just like, you have to have an advocate helping you. And
Mm.
some people need an advocate just because they don't have enough resiliency in their own,
Mm.
sort of biology they're so indoctrinated into the system, yet they kind of don't want to be, but
Mm.
they just haven't, they haven't like used their no as a full sentence for a really long time, and they need a little help.
So you're
So
saying, Vanessa, that we need like doula. What would we call that? Like
yeah,
a
that's
Medical
like
it.
a
advocacy.
medical doula. Like
You need a
Yeah, well,
medical
medical
doula.
advocate. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
advocate. Yeah, like and I actually went through that with my mom too, watching her slowly be killed by the medical system, to be honest. Like,
Mhm.
just if I won't go into the details, but you just be like, are you kidding me? Are
Yeah,
you kidding me? Like, between
yeah,
all the random surgeries that were not
everybody
needed
has a
to
horror
like,
story.
yeah, it's a horror
Everybody has a
story for
horror
sure.
story.
And there were times where I was the advocate, and I'll never forget the moment where she was a little bit more coherent because she was taking a lot of medications. And she looked at me, and I'll never forget it because it was really powerful. And she says, I didn't know you can speak that way. And that you were like, she was in awe with my advocacy. And all I was doing was standing firm in my heart and questioning. So
Yeah.
this is why is this? And I'm like, I'm not to be fucked with because I know the system. I have a medical trauma background, and I'm just like, but I'm not starting an argument. I'm just being firm,
Mhm.
knowing my ground. And it's activating for me for those environments because of my past. But I also knew that, like, my gosh, this woman's not going to be able to ask those things.
Yeah.
And they're just going to do whatever they want to do. And I do feel my heart goes out to people that are going through this right now. And then they start to feel alone, and they feel like there's nobody here. And then there's that like lack of love and connection. And I do feel like you ladies in your field, it's like you're literally offering love to people. Like if we just scrape away all this external stuff, and I know that because I know when I'm reaching out for practitioners and guidance, I'm like, wow, I feel like I need love right now. And who could step forward and hold a space with me because I just can't do it. Sometimes we
Yeah.
just can't do it. Like,
Yeah.
and how do we can't be hard on ourselves for that because it's just, this world is like, but yeah.
I've had a similar experience. The older generations respect the white coat.
Hmm.
And then some of our younger generations come along and we've had not so great experiences and we've had to find our voice. I'm just hoping that, if my son ever needs care, he can, kind of like you, just stand firm in his knowing and say no
Yeah.
and ask questions and ask why. Because we do have that right. I think it's been part of the programming that we don't get to ask questions. We just do as we're told. And, it's that's not care. That's following commands and taking direct orders.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, there's so much self-advocacy we need to do and we need to learn. And I always feel like I'm going to say, I think it begins with just a balanced nervous system, which I know is such a loaded like answer, but just, embodiment, knowing who we are, grounding in and just listening, doing our emotional work, as I say, is a daily practice, right? And taking time to be with nature. Like I feel like people aren't with nature enough and less doing, like we're always doing all the time, right? It's like and I know sickness will stop people temporarily or, and the journey begins, right? The path forward. But yeah, let's see. So there's a few more questions here. And if anybody is live here, well, let me see how many people are here. We have a few people here, not to call anybody out. Oh yeah, there we go. More than a few people. If you have a question that you want to ask Vanessa, Lori, me, or whatever, like ask away. This is your time. These ladies are like really, not just the education and expertise of them, their hearts, their frequency, they're moving into this new energy of where we're coming to for the future of our children. So I have this one question that came through. I don't even know. I don't know how to answer it. And maybe some of you can. I wrote, I think this is a question. I would love a list. I'm like a list of which growers rotate crops so our produce has the most nutrients possible. I've heard that it would take a large number of today's example is peaches, equally amount of nutrition and one piece from the 50s. Organic crop rotating produce would be amazing. Does anybody know? I don't even know anything about this. Does anybody have any insights about that? And share something about that?
Well, I
Don't
certainly
have,
can't provide a list, but
I,
it
I,
is
I
true.
don't, I don't have yeah, same here. I don't have a
Yeah,
list. I
no
mean,
list.
yeah. So I'm
But it is
sorry.
true that our soil is depleted and our nutrients are not what they used to be. I mean, it's just true because of industrial farming. We did get away from rotational farming and went industrial with it, and the practices of farming itself further deplete the soil of its nutrients. So it is a real thing. I certainly can't say what farmers are doing rotational
I,
practices again. A lot of them are turning back to that, but
yeah, I will say just from what I've seen in the last probably few years is this sort of movement towards regenerative farming, which is making a huge comeback. So I think that's really exciting. But
yeah.
as far as like a list, yeah, I
Pressure to have
don't
a
know.
list. It's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah. I have nothing to
I
say
would
about
love a
it.
list. So if somebody
Maybe,
wants to
yeah,
make
there
a
you
list.
go.
There's a
We'll put it
Facebook
out
group for
there, somebody.
everything.
Hey, somebody make that list.
There's a Facebook group for everything. I'm sure there's a couple.
There was two other questions I realized that came in, and I don't know if it was more of a question or more of a statement, and it was talking about our older generation and sickness and wellness and what comes up. And I know you just shared, Vanessa, you're going through this, is I don't know, how do we support and nourish parents, especially that are going through Alzheimer's and dementia? Like, that's a big question too. I think that's what she was trying to say. And if they're not wanting to do things like the, you know, light therapies or, ozone therapy or these like really like amazing ways that I've seen people heal. But I'm sure it has to do with the older generation and just yeah, what can you say? I mean, that could be a really big question too, about that specific, what would
I
you
don't
call it?
have
Yeah.
the best answer for that. I really think it depends on you yourself. What's your temperament? What do you, some people are not here to be caregivers. Let's just
Mm.
get real.
Mhm.
Like, I have a sister who's 13 years younger, and she's not the one to care for our mom. It's not in her DNA. She's an incredible person. I love her dearly. This isn't in her wheelhouse, right? So I think it really depends on your nature. And I also think it depends on the parent, because in some ways, like the aging parent community, I love the seniors. I like speak senior. And maybe because I'm, sort of like a senior in the making, but I've always loved seniors. But sometimes they're worse than toddlers in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because they have been captains of empire, and now they're losing autonomy.
Mhm.
And I can't imagine. I try to imagine, it's really difficult, how difficult that must be to be losing your autonomy on a certain level. So I think it's just sort of a multifactorial approach. And I don't know that there's one really best answer.
Yeah, what do
And
you think, Lori? Yeah.
well, while I definitely agree that the older generations can be, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. That can be very true. However, I have a 94-year-old client who loves all of this new stuff, she says. And if this stuff was around a long time ago, I wouldn't be
Mm.
fighting with these things. So I don't I don't necessarily feel it's just the
Mm.
elders. My own son will not cooperate with the holistic nature that has been my entire life, including before he was even conceived.
Wow.
For a while he went along with it, and now he has changed his mind. So I think it's an individual thing,
Is it
what they
20s
resonate
or
with.
30s? What is his age group in?
He's 26.
Hmm.
And, we just had this conversation again a couple days ago, um, regarding not just holistic practices, but specifically trauma work.
Mm.
And he, I don't know if it's because this masculine thing, or if it's just who he is. Is it the generation? I don't know, because he's not 86, he's 26. But you either resonate or you don't, right?
Mm.
And I agree that when my mom started to show signs of dementia, it really was like herding cats.
Mm.
It's this really angry toddler who will not be told what to do, who will not give up her house, who will not give up driving, who will not give up her finances. I mean, it's just a stubbornness beyond anything I've ever had to deal with. And she's a stubborn woman. I've known that my whole life. So yes, it's a little bit of a mix of not wanting to admit the fact that you're in a decline. But
Mm.
then you've got this dementia component that makes them a little argumentative, and even a little, well, sometimes in more advanced cases, it's not even a little combative. They can be violent and lash out. And that's when it gets very challenging for the loved ones to have to try to manage, because when your mom doesn't even really know who you are and they're trying to kill you,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
not an easy road.
You're making me think, Lori, and I don't know if we have this statistical information. Is this Alzheimer's dementia, is it more prevalent in certain cultures? Do we know? Do we have this information?
I don't have that information. I know that it is directly correlated to toxicity,
Yeah.
and nobody under the sun is exempt from the toxicities of this world,
Because
depending,
sometimes we look at, sorry, sometimes we look at, like, I know they've done studies. I know this is Vanessa's area of I know we said the word before, but I don't want to get censored off of YouTube. I hate to
Yeah.
say that. We'll call it the cupcake, right? The cupcakes,
right?
right? We know we're talking about because they hear that word and then we're just gone. We're not allowed to
Yep.
be seen and heard. And I feel like this energy is really important. And we look at like what I've heard for years, and I don't know a lot about it, but is going into the Amish culture and that there's certain diseases that just do not exist. And I'm like, well, that must mean something because knowing like from, that culture, least toxicities, processed. And I mean, I'm sure I'm not doing justice for the researcher. I've just been hearing this for years, and it makes me think about this Alzheimer's and this brain stuff. Like, is it more prevalent in more certain cultures, maybe industrialized cultures? I don't know. Because I'm hearing it so much, like almost probably every other person has someone in their family that they're dealing with. And
Mhm.
I'm like hearing these stories, and I'm just like, wow, like that is so intense. And um, I mean, it's the same thing as cancer too, and autoimmune stuff. But cancer, I don't remember people talking about it as much 20
As
years
they do
ago.
now.
Yeah, like now,
Yeah.
again, in my life, every other person has a connection with cancer or something. It's almost like, is it strange that we're almost comfortable with it? Like autoimmune disorders, I feel like we become comfortable about it. Like, oh, what's your autoimmune disorder?
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I agree with you. But again, anybody under the sun is exposed to the same air. And if you know anything about aerotoxicity, it's everywhere. So it's in the water and it's in the soil. So therefore, we're eating it. And there's really no getting away from it.
Mm,
Are some communities experiencing less? Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And depending on where in the world they live, is there less dementia and Alzheimer's? I imagine. I'm sure there's
mm,
less diabetes. I'm sure there's
mm-hmm.
less autoimmunity, but it's something that we're all exposed
Yeah.
to. And I, I I'm kind of shocked at the numbers. It is very shocking. I agree. Everybody has a something, and that wasn't the case 30 years ago at all.
Mm. So, Vanessa, before you share, I just got a comment that came through. From my experience, I would offer that light therapy kept my mom out of dementia. I'm not saying it right, dementia care.
Mhm.
And yes, I think we as a culture were accepted that dementia is a part of getting old, right?
Mhm.
I know it's
But
like
that would
that's
mean everybody who
yeah.
gets old gets dementia.
Which I can't say. So my mom and dad are dead and they never had that. So
Yeah.
I can say for sure that not all old people will die that way. But I don't know. Yeah, it seems rampant and I see it in men and women. I don't know. In my experience, I see it a lot more with men, but I could be wrong. It could just be my experience. Vanessa, any thoughts?
Yeah, I have. I definitely. Well, first of all, I love that, Heidi. And yeah, I mean, I'm good. Kudos on you for like helping your mom. But for sure in the West, I mean, we're like leading the way with all the sort of environmental illnesses, right? You don't see
Mm-hmm.
this in, sub-Saharan Africa. It's sort of like the opposite end of the spectrum of the autism community. Like
Oh, yeah.
we're leading the way like we now, what are the, it's like 1 in 28 now in California, right? You don't see, well, right. You don't see that in the Amish community, even pockets in the United States of America where you won't find that, which basically tells us that it's an environmental disease. But one thing I can say, like for sure, I mean, two things are for sure going to happen just being alive on the planet. Like one, we're all going to die. We're all gonna transition back into the great, mother of the universe or wherever we're going. Excuse me. And the other thing is on the way to that, we're all going to experience a certain amount of neuroinflammation and cellular inflammation. And it's sort of just the nature of, I mean, hopefully the best case scenario is just like healthy, 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 dead. Right. Right. That's like the best case scenario. But, in reality, there's something even in the literature now called inflammaging, right? It's just
What?
like,
I haven't heard that
yeah,
one.
it's called garbaging and inflammaging, right? Yeah. And menopause symptoms, that's right, don't exist in some cultures too. But yeah, it's just the process of aging itself. Your cells become tired. They can't get the garbage out. Like our cells have to go poo. Our cells have to get the waste out, and when they can't because they're tired,
Yeah.
it creates its own inflammatory process. So yeah, while everybody's not going to have dementia, right? And the most common form of dementia is Alzheimer's, right? There's different forms of dementia, Alzheimer's, vascular dementia, frontotemporal dementia, like different forms of dementia, right? But we're all going to have a certain amount of inflammation on our way out. And we're all just doing our best, man. Right? We're all doing the best we can.
Well, it's true. We are doing the best. I know it's interesting because we had another loss in our family, and it was my husband's father, and he was over 80, and then people are going, well, what did he die of? And I said, I feel like it's old age, right? I mean, does it really, it's like people don't say that anymore. Like, oh my gosh, like this horrific disease disorder. I was like, he had a really good life though. He had a really long life. Like, and I go,
Right.
when do we just say, okay, it's just like the body's like done and the spirit is
Yeah.
ready, as I like to feel, like to go back home and to be
Yeah.
rebirthed. And it's not
Yeah.
pretty to watch a rebirth of somebody. Like it's very intense, but yet, like you said, it's like we're all gonna go. And I like the idea of like, can we just make it really good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Healthy, healthy,
Yeah.
healthy,
Yeah,
healthy,
and
dead. I mean,
yeah.
the other thing I just want to say about that, about the whole environmental thing too, is I think like, yeah, right. It's hardcore for sure. Like we're really up against some stuff. But at the same time, I mean, since the beginning of the industrialized revolution, it's been hardcore.
Mm,
And I've mentioned this before, but I think it's important to just you can't forget your own medical history, right? So I mean, I was born in 1970 and I grew up in LA where I lived in a home where literally everybody smoked. So
Yeah.
I sucked in more secondhand smoke than a chimney stack, literally. It was also the time during, where like hydrogenated oils sort of took, we were
mm.
all like slurping down
Parquet.
margarine and
Yes.
and food that literally glowed in the dark, right? It just was like there
Yes.
was this huge and leaded gasoline. I mean, I played outside in a fog of leaded gasoline. My apartment building was right off of the 10 freeway, right?
Mm.
It's like so gross. So and not only that, my mother, God bless her, I love her so much, but she never cooked a fucking meal, right? So it's like and somehow like I
Yeah,
sort of managed to like, but
yeah.
and that's not making light of like what we're up against now, but I also just want to say like it was bad then. It wasn't
Yeah.
terrific, you know? And the generation before them, where they were all sort of stuck in coal mines or whatever,
Mm.
it wasn't great for them either. So it's like,
Mm.
you know, Yeah, well, things have changed. They've also sort of stayed the same. I mean, there's this crazy statistic that I read where, since World War II, there's been like 80,000 new synthetic chemicals that have been released to the environment.
Mm,
Most of them are household cleaning products. So it's like,
mm.
you know, and yet we're all just still doing our best. Sorry, I know that was like a big
No,
mouthful,
no,
but
no. But I know that, like, of course, some toxicities around some people, they're okay and they're not. And it made me think when you said that of Garba Mate's book. What's that book? It's his really well-known book, and I have it. Now I can't. When the Body Says No, I think it is. But he actually talks about like being exposed, and it could be a controversial topic, but his study goes deep in it. Like you can be exposed to a lot of cigarette smoke and not die of lung cancer. So
Mhm.
does lung cancer
Mhm.
cause, does the smoke cause the lung cancer, or is it the stress of that person? I'm going to say the energetic lineage, like what are you
Mhm.
coming into, holding on the luggage and the packaging
Mhm.
of the ancestors, and I'll say the negative ancestors because everybody has trauma in their uproots and things we don't know consciously. We don't have to know them all. I feel like we're just kind of showing up to life and clearing and listening and healing. So no, I appreciate your insights on that. And something else you said, wait, I want to make sure I get these chats in here. I love it. Thank you, Heidi. Menopause symptoms don't exist in some cultures. I never really thought about that.
Mhm. Oh
Wow.
yeah, we've turned menopause into a disease in this
Yes,
in
right?
America. Menopause is now a disease.
Wow.
I mean, it's
It
crazy.
kind of drives me crazy when people start talking about it and it's just like, I'm like, what is this? It does feel like it's like you're next. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like
Oh,
because I'm not in that yet, right? And I'm like a lot older, but I'm like my body's taking its time. I don't know, but I'm also like, oh my gosh, should I be scared? Where are my resources? But I hear these horror stories and I'm like, is this okay to set this up for the
isn't it?
like the under
And isn't it like the same? It's sort of the other side of the coin is like birthing horror stories and
Yeah.
and breastfeeding horror
Yeah,
stories. And
there's menopause horror stories,
I
right?
mean, you know what my menopause experience, I'm going through menopause right now. My experience has been like nothing.
There
It's
you
been
go.
like,
Thank you. Let's
it's
say
been
that. Like,
it's been like I mean, that's just me personally.
yeah.
I did some things ahead of time to help make sure that the transit whatever the horror story transition was going to be like smooth as, because you never know, right?
But
But
that's my
so far,
intention, Vanessa. And Lori, maybe you could say, can't we create the intention of listening to our bodies and going, I'm not going to have this horror story. I
Well,
mean,
when you were talking about Dr. Mate's book, I was thinking of
yeah.
that too. Is like our belief system has so much to do with our resilience. Like you said, I was raised in the 70s too on Little Debbie's and Coca-Cola and Mountain Dew and candy bars and my gosh, the things that we have overcome. Why? Technically the first 20 years of my life, I smoked a pack a day because my
Mm.
parents both smoked a pack a day. So, should I just go ahead and assume I'm going to get lung cancer, or should I, cancel, clear, delete that, control, alt, delete any of that, because that's not what I'm going to buy into. Those are not the ideas and the illnesses that I'm going to resonate with. So how much of it really is our beliefs and our ability to create what we want, while kind of like you said, I'm not going to go into menopause with a plan of horror stories. I'm going to
Mhm.
go into menopause supporting my body's needs, and I'm going to have a really smooth transition into not worrying about wearing white pants anymore. It's I think a lot of it absolutely is beliefs. And now I'm going to turn myself into a hypocrite and saying that's how I did go into menopause. And it's been a little bumpy for me. So, my belief system was fully on board with I am going to sail right through this and I'm not going to have any problems, no hot flashes, no issues whatsoever. And girls got some issues. So, I think it's a mix of a lot of things.
But I wonder
We
too,
have
Lori, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but as you say that, but don't you? don't you ever wonder, like maybe we need mentors?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
And
a
that's what I was going
mentor.
to say is
Yeah.
belief system on board, but also the support tools need to be on board. We can't just ignore what the body needs just because our belief system might be solid.
Yeah, that's a really good point because I look at like what are the mentors, the women that are that their moon pause has begun. Your moon pause has begun. And in your moon pause, like guide me, guide me because I feel like there's a huge emotional piece and there's grief because you're leaving a chapter of no longer having babies, right? That's a big deal. Like or that your body is just changing. And I hear some really beautiful things about moon pause, by the way. I hear some really gorgeous, like just an elevation of spirit. And I'm like, ooh, why don't I hear anyone talking about that? And just the release and just a new kind of like, a new connection to who you are as a feminine being and what that future energy looks like. Mm,
I would love that.
yeah. I feel like it's there somewhere. Not to minimize, yeah, going through stuff. But I want to share, I love this. This is one final question that came through. What do you see for the coming themes for the year and how should we prepare? I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but should we be doing in 2025, ladies? Like, what should we be doing? What is your best advice on that?
I think it, in the coming year, just what comes through for me is slowing down to the best of our ability and keeping things as simple as possible.
I agree. And I don't think it matters if it's 2024 or 2012 or 2025. It really, broken record. We have to get back to center. This world is so full of distractions and information and um, sometimes really exciting possibilities. It is a very, very, very full world. But perhaps because I'm in a moon pause, I have really discovered the beauty of simplicity, the beauty of just sitting still and listening to what the birds have to say and what the trees have to say and watching the water flow by and just really immersing in nature. Just really, I agree, simplifying, unplugging, detaching, and following your inner knowing more than you ever did before, because that's what we need more than anything in this world to help us navigate is our inner compass that most people don't even know they have.
Sign me up to you two ladies. This is like that's my answer.
Yeah, what do you think, Kelly? What do you think?
It's literally the same answer.
Mhm.
It's stillness, it's quiet time, it's nature, and it is unplugging. I notice like all my work is online, so I'm
Yeah.
always social mediating or doing this or that, and then I was like, oh my gosh, do I like need to unplug? And the day was so much longer and full, right? And I was like, wow. I was like, this is really powerful. And I do feel like coming in to the energy over the next months, it is about body. Our body stuff has to be really connected, whether we want to drink mushroom powder or whether we want to drink celery juice. I don't think it really matters. I know there's so much like division over what we should do. I am big into, for me, light therapy, stem cell. I'm like, and just showing up to the quiet spaces, being in the quiet. Can we actually sit and be quiet? Like, try it, people, try it. There's, it's, and when we do that, I feel like we create this energetic vibrational space. It becomes normal. And the new earth human is more simple and less dramatic and unattached to emotion. And that's what I'm kind of projecting out there and, doing my part as you ladies are. Yeah. Uh, well, I want you both to share just a little bit more about yourselves and like where people can find you, whether you have a website, Instagram, email, phone number, whatever it is that you feel like sharing. They will be in the show notes too, all your information, so people can access that more in detail. But just, just sharing, yeah, just, a little bit more about ways people can connect with you. Do you want to go first, Vanessa? I'll just
Sure.
pick you.
Yeah, go. Yeah, that's fine. I'm Facebook, drvanessapasov.com, and I'm super accessible. So happy to chat with all the people. And yeah, so.
Yeah, same. I'm on Facebook, Instagram by my name, TikTok, openly gray Lori K.
Oh, I love that. Perfect.
That's great. Well, wonderful. Thank you. I mean, I could just talk to you ladies forever, for hours. I just love the light that we get to create together, and it's important. There's a lot of my coughing. There's a lot of big shifts and changes that are going to keep continuing to happen. And how do we then anchor in and create that light love community with each other? And I'm so happy that we were able to create this. And I want to thank everybody for joining. Episode 203, January 3rd, did I say 2024 before? 2025. I may have. Freedom, Heart Gathering 2025, Community Healing for the Future and Our Children. And I want to thank you for joining Spirit Baby Radio. And I actually do have a new upcoming, and I want to share that too as well. It is live and active. It is in the Mighty Networks. It is actually called Intuitive Healthcare. And there's 2 tiers of joining. There's one, it's just basic, and it's really sitting together in spaces like this, to be honest, and talking about health, connecting with health, and seeing how our own health abilities just kind of expand. And nature is a part of that, of course. And there's another tier for deeper level of support, and that will be in the show notes as well. I want to thank you all for joining. Thank you for joining Spirit Baby Radio with your host, me, Kelly Meehan. Please join my community and stay in touch with monthly energy rants, Spirit Baby poetry, and get access to Spirit Baby 101 with tips and practices at my newsletter at newearthchildren.com. And join me on Instagram with lives at Spirit Baby Medium, and join the Mighty Networks, the Spirit Baby Collective membership, and Motherhood to Mediumship. Remember, you are the heart that holds communication, and it is your time to connect. Come share in the great shift of your mind and the true spirit of your heart with Spirit Baby Communication.